Avi Meyer's Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine. Presentation is Sonny Hirsch and myself. We're real big on community policing. If you go to caps24.org, you'll get all the information for all the police meetings throughout the area. And, even though CAPS has made cuts, we hope you're still going to get involved with community policing. The bottom line is that despite all the cuts, that it's still the community talking directly to the police and the police talking directly to the community. And it's a chance on a regular basis for you to meet the policemen that actually patrol your beat and the neighbors in your neighborhood, hear their concerns, express your concerns, get the information you need passed over. Yeah, there's less people working on CAPS, but CAPS is alive and ticking, just working out of a much smaller room. It is a pleasure to have, usually we cover Cook County, City of Chicago, West Rogers Park. She's originally a Rogers Parker, now a Buffalo Grover with a very interesting story, more than one. And that's Lisa Stone. Lisa, how you doing?
Hi, Avi. Nice to meet you.
Okay, so you have a distinction.
Yes. Yes, I do.
Okay, you were a council person in Buffalo Grove.
Trustee, but
Trustee,
same,
okay.
same thing.
A high-paying job, too.
$4,000 a year.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I didn't know I was going to actually earn until after I won the spot, so that was actually a bonus.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and things didn't quite go the way you planned.
Well, I was elected in 2009, April 2009. I was asked to run by Lake County Commissioner David Stallman, and it got off to a very unusual start. 6 people running for 3 seats, and very contentious. Things began happening that I never expected. I'd never been in government per se. I had spearheaded legislation back in '97 in my community to get higher regulations for pit bulls and Rottweilers, which was successful. Just enforcing responsible ownership. And I'd always been involved with local politics as far as just helping the guys that were running in my community, campaigning for them. So Commissioner Stallman asked me to run, and I was flattered, and I thought it over, and I decided I could make a difference. And my platform was fighting to stop the heroin that is plaguing our country, particularly in the suburbs. They target our youth, and it's powdered heroin is very inexpensive, and it's become a terrible crisis in our country. So that was my platform, and I won the election. And on the day that I was sworn in on May 4th, 4 days prior, myself and the other new trustee, her name is Bev Sussman, to our surprise, 4 days before, we find out that they were putting OTB, off-track gambling, on the agenda. And I wrote to our government saying, could you please delay it, just so we could talk with the people. And that began a very rocky start. And they wouldn't delay it. They took one piece of the legislation off, but they did, in fact, on May 4th, put the text amendment. So at my first meeting, learning how to legislate, my mayor, President Hartstein, began telling our community, which I had, and Bev Sussman had gotten the community out in great numbers from clergy from various faiths, school board members. The room was filled with people saying, you didn't tell us about this. And I told I told President Hartstein, I said, you're telling the people, because he was saying this is not about gambling. This is a text amendment to strengthen if we don't want to have gambling. I said, this is about gambling. It says off-track wagering. It's gambling. You've got to tell the people the truth. So this is the beginning, you know. Of course, the law, it was passed, even though the room was filled. No one wanted in the room. They got up till 3 in the morning. People were standing up saying, we don't want gambling in our town. Buffalo Grove is known for the best school districts, or one of the best school districts. It was paradoxical to bring this to our town. Interesting is, I love gambling. I probably gamble more than the people on the board. But my concern was that they had not told the people. We have communication vehicles. We have e-news. We have the blotter. We have the magazine. We have the cable station. They did not tell the public. That's what bothered me so much, not telling the people. Additionally, it really isn't, I don't think gambling should be in every single town. In my opinion, we have more of a bedroom type community, or it's a change in society that I think the public had a right to voice in on, and that right was not really allowed.
We've got to move forward from there. So.
Okay. So, all right. So anyhow, from that point on, there were issues, and my board, me and the boys club is how I look at them. It's an old boys club. Any issues that were coming along, whether it was cash counting policies during our carnival that I corrected but they didn't like that I addressed, various different topics that when I found something that needed to be addressed, people were coming to me from the community, I addressed it, and the board was always very put off and annoyed with me. Then in December, lo and behold, a man comes to me, a businessman, and he smells something in his new location of business that is very obnoxious odor that was overwhelming to his business. And he comes to me during a wrestling meet. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so no, we've got to move the story quicker if we're
Okay.
going to get your stuff
Okay.
in. So basically, what was that substance? What was?
It ended up to be the largest composting facility in Lake County that sits atop a landfill. And it turned out that he was upset because the manager who he had gone to and complained to had never gotten back to him, and I contacted the Lake County Commissioner. And one thing after another, then the manager altered an email and said public statements that were not truthful. And this began what I knew was going to be my recall, because as I was pushing forward, I was seeing the signs that they were going to invoke this.
Okay, so wait. Mm-hmm. So you didn't like what was happening. There were signs that they were toxic, whatever.
No, no. At that point, there were not signs of anything toxic. There were signs of that there was a doctor that wrote a letter saying people are going home ill from these fumes. A reputable doctor.
So people were getting sick from what was going on there.
From the fumes, yes, from the intense odors.
So there was a problem that you were addressing, but nobody else seemed to be interested in addressing.
Well, my board said, oh, they're over dramatizing, and it was a very unusual situation. I could not understand why they were taking that position, because as government leaders, we're in charge of the safety, health, and welfare of people more so than a business owner's property. And they were saying, you cannot unilaterally amend an annexation, so we can't make them stop composting. And I said, but there's a safety issue. And lo and behold, what I started to find was there was deceptive things happening in my government with the village manager, and I addressed it, and he suddenly early retired when I called him on this altered email. At the same time, my village president had a mini stroke. A lot was going on regarding this topic. I started FOIAing. And long story short, I found the Shaw Review, the Shaw Environmental Review, and I didn't find it in Buffalo Grove, where it should have been. That's true. We contracted, we paid for it. It should have been on record in Buffalo Grove, but it was not. I FOIA'd Lake County, which is where I found it. I knew of it from the emails from the FOIA Buffalo Grove that there was this Shaw study, but I had no report. Nothing was there. And in that, I found findings of, they spoke of phenol for the many years, and exceedances, and various things that they talk about.
What's
phenol? Phenol is a chemical that is used in certain products in certain quantity that is fine, but in large quantities it's not fine. Just like anything else, it's something that in landfills, when they do groundwater monitoring, they look for the various different things that they determine are safe and not safe.
So there's groundwater nearby?
Well, there's groundwater everywhere.
Okay.
But
okay, gotcha.
But under this landfill, when you have a landfill, you have to have groundwater monitors. On this particular landfill, which let's just say this is the landfill, there are 4 on the east edge and 1 on the northwest corner. Mm-hmm. Well, there's a huge community here, about 5,000 people, that drink groundwater, unincorporated Deerfield, okay?
So they're drinking water that comes from here?
Well, no, they're drinking from a community well from the Picara wells.
Okay.
But the question is that in this landfill, the fact is that back when they did the study in 2005 and there were findings, my government, the reason they did the study, my government, is because they were going to annex in this landfill from unincorporated Deerfield or unincorporated Lake County. But as I saw in the FOIAs, they dropped the study. They said because they weren't going to build a park, a soccer park, a baseball park. But the fact is that this study was done, as it said, as they applied for the Brownfield grant, they were doing the study in due diligence because they're annexing in a landfill that they felt had construction hazardous materials. So it didn't make sense that they dropped the study. They dropped the study. Very unusual, unless you're walking away from a property because you think you don't like the findings. They actually annexed in that property. So as I was finding all this, I went to various experts with the information that I was finding. And one expert that I went to, his name is Albert Ettinger. He was a senior staff attorney at the Environmental Law and Policy Center. And I spoke with him about the situation. I sent him the Shaw study, and he said he was going to look at it and make a determination of what to do. Mm. And An hour and a half later, after he read the study, I get an email, copied to me, but he wrote it to Matt Dunn, who's the Attorney General, Chief of Land, Air, and Water or something. He's the head guy at the AG. Mm-hmm. And Albert writes, "Dear Matt," now just so you know, Albert Ettinger is known as like the guru of the Clean Water Act. Okay.
Let's go.
He writes, "Dear Matt, Lisa Stone, a citizen who happens to be a village trustee for Buffalo Grove, is concerned that a landfill is not being closed properly that is located in a recently annexed portion of Buffalo Grove. Basically, it was a land and lakes site that took construction waste, then shifted to composting. It is my understanding that Shaw Environmental made a preliminary investigation of the site attached and determined that much more study was needed, but Buffalo Grove did not require the recommended studies, and it is thought that the owner may wish to develop this site without the proper studies ever being done. This is troubling. Further, there is some concern that groundwater contamination has already happened. Please refer this to whoever in your office looks at such things. Ms. Stone can be reached at," and he gives my phone number. "Hope things are going well for you, and thanks. Albert Ettinger, Senior Staff Attorney, Environmental Law and Policy Center." So
no, we've only got 2.5 minutes left, so.
Okay. So the bottom line is, they had already began my recall in Buffalo Grove.
Yeah. By recall, they wanted you to remove from office.
Yeah. They had passed a recall ordinance with no criteria: short, tall, fat, small, didn't matter.
Which didn't exist before they wanted to decided they liked you so much.
No. Right. This is home rule. You can pass laws. You can pass any laws you want, obviously. And I have never been accused of breaking any law, violating any ethics, no corruption. I'm being recalled for my code of behavior because I had the audacity to question corporate authority. And they felt to go out of corporate authority, so that when I was telling them of my concerns of the landfill, and they were saying, "Oh, much ado of nothing," literally much ado of nothing, I sought help from Congressman Kirk, from the Attorney General's office, the U.S. EPA. I was not going to let, I didn't know if there's a safety issue, but I knew that the Shaw Environmental Report said further study, we must put in more groundwater monitors, we must get soil borings. This is what they were saying. Shaw is a Fortune 500 company, so this was to be taken seriously. Right. So I just simply wanted them to finish the studies to ensure safety. I'm not an engineer.
Okay, now they're not. The answer is they're not doing it, right?
It's never been done, and that's why last night was an IEPA public hearing in our town, which I requested. It was the first ever historic that they had a public hearing on post-closure plan of a landfill. That's meaning that they're stopping the monitoring. That's what post-closure care is. They're going to pull the monitoring, so they will never monitor again. So what me and my experts, I put together a panel of experts from the Chicago
from a number of reputable places. I've seen them and I'll vouch for it.
Yes, from a lot of environmental attorneys. And they said you must study this. You cannot just pull the plugs and build on top of there. You first must ensure safety, because
and they were looking to put this big shopping center there and make a lot of money.
Yeah, and which is a great idea. Yeah. I'm all for it. But first ensure safety, because our children have to live in this world. And that if it were reaching the drinking water, we don't test.
Which is possible.
But the issue is that the government doesn't require that you test for phenol. So the community wells that drink from well water, they're not testing for phenol. But yet there's these phenol findings that were reported in the news 2009, 2010, as recent as
which
that.
Which are toxic beyond belief.
Well, I mean, I'm not.
It's not good stuff.
Well, when you have exceedances, yes, you're supposed to.
We've got to wrap up. We're already 4 minutes longer than I thought we were going to be. But basically, so the meeting was last night.
The public hearing, yeah.
Favorable reaction. We'll see what happens. We'll invite you back.
Okay.
But also, we should mention that recall vote. Mm-hmm. Lisa has the honor of being the very first person in Illinois to ever get recalled.
I do, but I have to say, it is actually, I do wear it with pride, because
it should be a badge of honor considering who's over there.
Well, because in a town like Illinois, it's ironic that
in a state like Illinois,
in a state like Illinois, I'm recalled for being honest and for asking the hard questions and insisting on public safety.
Lisa, good luck.
Thanks, Abby. Thank you.